solar winds swept clean this planet 4.5 billion years ago. Earth thrived. Its natural elements helped it to flourish, and its bounty was for all to share. Then a life form of superior intelligence evolved, and for a while lived in harmony with the Earth. But paradise has been put into jeopardy. The motives are irrelevant. The consequences, severe. The remedy is written. The elements of life are clear.
In this edition of Elements, we travel to far eastern Russia, where only 400 of these endangered Siberian tigers still live in the wild. The local conservation organisation has turned to British zoos to help in returning stray tigers to their natural habitat. Linking Lives, a new campaign launched recently by the Red Cross, aims to make the free and confidential tracing service available to everyone in Europe who may have been separated by war or natural disasters like hurricanes and floods. A Kenyan woman whose polio left her in a wheelchair has overcome her disability to lead a full life. Mary Wanja runs a kindergarten, is a mother and a respected mouth artist. She now inspires others to appreciate their lives and the world around them. It seems that English farmers are so eager to sell their apples that they're bagging them even before they're picked. But while it may explain the added flavour and lack of harmful pesticides, they still have a few secrets up their sleeves. But first we venture to the Norfolk Broads, an age-old network of inland waterways in eastern England. It's also a magnet for visitors who flock to see the wildlife and enjoy the peace and quiet of this famous wetland area. But with an estimated 13,000 boats going up and down these waterways, ecologists are worried about water pollution and damage to the banks from diesel-powered craft. This unusual craft could provide an alternative. Named Ra, after the Egyptian sun god, it's the first solar-powered boat on the Broads. Commissioned from Germany by the Broads Authority, it will ferry 12 passengers a time, silently and cleanly, round the newly restored Barton Broad from next spring. What better way to reinforce the point ecologically than with a solar-powered boat? Solar panels linked together on the roof provide the fuel to power the craft, while the catamaran design reduces the wash and keeps damage to the banks to a minimum. The designers proudly say it's a marriage of science and aesthetics. Two centuries after these windmills were built, alternative energy is coming back to the Broads. In fact, everything about the boat has been well thought out, right down to the stainless steel hull. It never needs painting or repainting, which has always been an ecological problem waiting for a clever solution. Serenely beautiful from 93 million miles away, the Sun is actually a violently energetic system. So complex that scientists like Dr. Tom Duval from NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center are dedicating their careers to its study. Working at the Kitt Peak National Observatory outside Tucson, Arizona, Dr. Duval and his colleagues use a variety of telescopes in their research. This instrument on Kitt Peak is the largest solar telescope in the world. An 81-inch mirror on its roof tracks the sun's daily passage, sending a beam down a shaft extending 300 feet below ground. The result is a unique high-resolution image of the Sun about 2.5 feet in diameter. Dr. Duvall hopes to get at the causes of solar activity by determining what's going on in the Sun's interior. His ultimate goal is to accurately predict the violent solar activity that's troublesome to us all on Earth. Most of his work is done in this 81-foot-high solar vacuum telescope. Again, mirrors are used to reflect an image of the Sun down into the instrument's control room. Here, a daily map of magnetic phenomenon on the Sun's surface is produced. Nearly all forms of solar activity, from sunspots to flares, create magnetic fields. If these disturbances are strong enough, communications on Earth can be disrupted. There may even be a relationship between solar activity and earthly temperatures. At NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama, astrophysicist Richard Hoover studies the Sun with X-ray telescopes. This mirror was part of an instrument used on Skylab to produce solar images. Today, Hoover and scientists from Stanford University are working with a new generation of X-ray telescope, and they're producing phenomenally high-resolution images, revealing solar turbulence as never seen before. Launched in 1980, the 5,500-pound Solar Maximum spacecraft provided a great deal of information about the Sun. And since being repaired by NASA's astronauts, its instruments still continue to run. When the shuttle lifted off in October 1990, it carried within its cargo bay another spacecraft designed to take an even closer look at the Sun. Developed by NASA and the European Space Agency, Ulysses recently flew over the solar poles, regions of the Sun which hold important clues about its nature. Ulysses' long journey of exploration, together with Solar Max and discoveries being made by scientists around the world, will greatly enhance our understanding of the fiery beast behind the beauty. The little-known town of Karatina in Kenya is known for the determined and business-like attitudes of its inhabitants, like Gikuyu, seen here at the local outdoor market. And perhaps no one reflects that determination more than Mary Wanja. Despite being left severely disabled by polio, Mary has set up a kindergarten for local children. A team of 4 teachers instruct the 36 boys and girls aged 2 to 8 in the one-room school. Establishing this school was a labour of love for Mary, who was struck down with polio when she was 6, the same age as many of the children she helps to nurture today. The disease destroyed the muscles in her legs and arms and left her confined to a wheelchair. Mary has also achieved status as a mouth painter. She paints by grasping the brush in her teeth and delicately drawing it across the paper to create the images she loves. She says her favourite subjects are everyday scenes of people, including women at the market, children, and the environment that surrounds her. Mary has achieved what she has by sheer determination and hard work. Rejected by many people and almost abandoned by her family, Wanja spent 10 years in hospital and felt that her life was over. But despite the setback, which would have put most people into a major depression, Wanja says she was inspired by a European man she once met who was more disabled than she was. He'd lost the use of his arms and used a machine to breathe, but told her that she should paint because she could. Mary's work has earned her membership of the Association for Mouth and Foot Artists. The organisation publishes some of her prints in their books and supports her with a scholarship. The money goes towards supporting herself and her two children, Jessica and David, as well as repairing wear and tear on her wheelchair. Mary's tale has inspired many others, including children at a special needs school. One woman, Esther Waraguru, said she saw Mary in a supermarket and approached her because her son John was disabled and she wanted to know if Mary could teach him to paint. Esther told Mary that she was exactly like her son, and Mary requested a meeting with him. Now, John has become Mary's pupil and spends every opportunity at her studio, learning to manipulate a brush with his foot. In Mary, John sees a mirror image of himself, and together they could move towards making his and her dreams come true. Encouraged by her work with John, Mary hopes to start a home for the disabled. It would become a place where she could teach others how to paint, holding the brushes in their mouths or with their feet. This amazing woman strives to motivate others to make the most of their lives and appreciate the environment around them. While they may not be able to negotiate their way around their world as freely as most able-bodied people, they can still capture its beauty on canvas for others to appreciate. Members of the Tiger Response Unit in Far Eastern Russia anesthetize an injured Siberian tiger with a well-placed dart from a blowpipe. Close inspection reveals a face wound in need of urgent attention. The young tiger was discovered under a house with its brother, hidden there by its mother while she went to make a kill to feed them. Unfortunately, a local pet dog was the victim, and the mother tiger was chased away by angry villagers before she could collect her young. Sarah Christie is coordinator of the European Tiger Conservation Programme based at London Zoo. The Tiger Response Unit in Far Eastern Russia contacted her about the problem. This year, the unit has received several calls from villagers reporting tigers in their basements. An exceptionally bad winter has forced the big cats into the towns. Sarah was shocked to hear that the response unit was collecting these wayward tigers in their cars and driving for up to 5 hours, with the anesthetized beasts lying across the back seats. Sarah has now called on zoos in Europe to help out. 5 British zoos and 8 on the continent have contributed funds, and the first customized Siberian tiger carrying crates are already being built in Moscow. Now, at least, if the tigers do overcome their fear of humans and wander into town for food and shelter, collecting them will be much safer for both man and beast. In other tiger news, these 7-week-old orphan cubs have found both a new home and a new mother. They've been adopted by a veterinarian surgeon, Dr. Rob Zamet. But it's the doctor's dog, a German shepherd called Pepper, who's taken on the role of surrogate mother. Tiger cubs Flair and Prudence were part of the Bullen Circus family's private collection. But their parents, frightened by recent floods in Sydney, Australia, abandoned them, leaving the cubs to fend for themselves. Baby food and formula milk, combined with the love and attention of Pepper, the slightly confused Alsatian, is a balanced diet for the little big cats.
Oh, look at that.
The cubs are expected to return to the Bullen's menagerie in the next few weeks, but they'll need to be isolated from their parents to avoid any hostility towards them. Dr. Zamet said he felt privileged to be fostering the Bengal tigers, which he estimates are among less than 1,000 left in the world.
You're so sweet.
While Pepper wonders what all the fuss is about, the cubs, who are already stars in the Zamet family, are now heading for television superstardom, as the Bullens are negotiating advertising contracts for the telegenic pair.
Yeah, just down.
Not to be outdone, Berlin's Friedrichsfelde Zoo has unveiled 3 furry little bundles of their own, Siberian tigers stepping out for their first public appearance. After some initial hesitation, they happily posed for cameras and played with visiting children. The cub's keeper, Angelika Berkel, is delighted with the outcome. She says that they're very precious because they're an extremely endangered species. It's mother Sindaja's 4th birth at the same zoo where she herself was born 7 years ago. Father Turan, who's 16, does a very good job according to Berkel, and by now has become an expert in the rearing of baby tigers. The feisty triplets are becoming quite a handful for the keepers, who have had to deal with the occasional toddler tantrums. The zoo hopes that children who come to visit will help name their newest arrivals. The violent breakup of Yugoslavia led to over 200,000 deaths, shattered buildings, ruined cities, divided communities, and divided families. Survivors of wars like these are often left not knowing the fate of children, parents, brothers or sisters. They can spend years desperate for news. It's the task of the Red Cross to try to bring divided families back together. They may have been separated by war or natural disasters like hurricanes and floods. The Red Cross in Britain has launched a campaign called Linking Lives. It aims to make this free and confidential tracing service better known among Britain's many ethnic groups. A third of the inquiries that come to the British Red Cross are from people still trying to trace relatives lost in the chaos of the Second World War. In Europe, the end of the Cold War has added fresh impetus to efforts to reunite families split for over half a century. Britain today has communities of refugees and asylum seekers from present and past conflict areas in Africa and the Middle East, as well as Europe. The Red Cross hopes to encourage more of them, who've lost contact with those at home, to take advantage of its tracing services. With civil war, ethnic conflict and natural disasters ever present, such a service will continue to play a key role in rebuilding shattered lives. This giant Antonov 225 took off from Hostomel Airport outside Kiev recently and flew for 15 minutes before landing safely. The heavily reworked plane was originally designed to carry the former Soviet Union's Buran space shuttle. Industry experts say the An-225, dubbed Maria, which means dream, can carry 250 tons of cargo, the equivalent of 250 small family cars, which could increase the size of the unique aircraft's lucrative market. Antonov Airlines, an airline affiliated with the Antonov Design Bureau, has said the Miria could be hauling commercial cargoes by the end of the year. Antonov is also the designer of the An-124-100, the largest plane currently in commercial use, a 120-ton capacity freighter known also as the Ruslan. The An-124 is aimed at a niche market for super heavy and oversized air cargo, which is worth more than $200 million a year and is dominated by Russian and Ukrainian carriers. And while the lumbering white whale is far from being light on fuel, its enormous size does mean that a single cargo run saves many smaller planes from polluting our skies. Russia's Volga-Dnipro Airlines, which controls the lion's share of the super heavy air cargo market, has also said that it's interested in cooperating with Antonov to bring the An-225 into commercial use. The plane, expected to make an appearance at the world's largest aviation industry air show at Le Bourget, France, was launched in 1988 as part of the former Soviet Union's space program. Just 2 such planes were built and only one actually flew. The Turbo An 225's wingspan is 88.4 meters, and the plane can carry its maximum cargo for up to 2,800 miles at a cruising speed of 500 miles per hour. No wonder it creates such excitement whenever and wherever it lands. With a lower payload of 150 tons, the range extends to 7,000 kilometers. Cargo can be carried both within its enormous belly as well as outside the airplane. Test pilot Alexei Shulchenko expressed his enthusiasm after safely landing the plane. He says it's always nice to get a new plane in the air regardless of whether it's big or small. But a big plane always brings bigger emotions, and you don't get any bigger than this. No, it's not an unusual skin blemish or a clever television trick. These apples really are branded with an image on the side. The owner of this farm in England's fruit-growing county of Kent hit on the idea of putting logos on his apples for good business reasons. It's a long and labour-intensive process. In May, when the apples are still small, the farm workers cover them in double-layered bags. These help them ripen. It's also claimed it intensifies the flavour, and there's no need to spray the apples with pesticides. In September, as the picking season approaches, the outer bag is removed. The inner waxed bag protects the apples from the late summer sun. It too is stripped off after 2 or 3 days. At this point, logo-bearing stencils are rubbed onto the apples and left while they ripen. The farmer hopes this eye-catching idea will popularize English apples. Supermarkets have already tried the idea. These logos are clearly aimed at a Halloween party, but at £1 a time, or $1.50 US each, apples with logos would probably need a special occasion like Halloween for most people to splash out. The white sheets on the ground reflect sunlight, helping the apples ripen. It should all mean better quality apples, no pesticides, and a little something extra on the skin to make us laugh.